We have an opportunity to have a family meeting, and if you're visiting with us, thanks for coming along and being a part of this. We want to bring you up to speed on some things, so it'll be about 8 or 10 minutes, and it won't be too boring, I don't think. But and for those of you visiting, I'm Jake, one of the pastors here, and we are what we call a congregationally approved church, which means we bring to you any matters that would be large, like personnel, or building, or things like that. We don't move forward as deacons or elders until we have your approval. And we as deacons and elders have all come from different backgrounds, where most of us here at this church have come here starting something fresh, starting something new. Years ago, there was a church called Acacia Grove that purchased this property with a lot of foresight, and as that church and a church that Shale pastored came together, I don't know, about 5 years now, something like that. As it came together, it formed Creekside Church. Built this building in the middle of COVID, right during that whole lockdown and all that, and we've been here a year and a half. A year and a half, we've already seen some growth. We're obviously in summer mode now, a little bit more space. The second service is a little busier, but we're starting to see that we knew we were going to get to a certain point and then launch another campus, that kind of thing. You know, we didn't want to be a big church, like a big church. I know everything's big and small are relative, right? But we just want to be obedient. And so as we built this church, we went to 2 services, and we're fully equipped and ready to go if we have to do another service, or, keep moving the chairs in and tightening them up. We can do all those kind of things. But we've been wondering, what is it going to be like to make that next move? Now, since we started this idea 5 years ago, things have changed in Tampa. A 35% increase in housing and that kind of thing, all these people moving in. Gone are the days where we can go down the street to, there's an old Winn-Dixie that went under. We can just take that spot. Or we can, go into this place, or maybe rescue a church. And we've looked at all those things, and any church that might be around as that may be in that position of needing that kind of church rescue as a sanctuary, no bigger than 80. And so we've been running into these things. Well, about 4 or 5 months ago, we understood that there was a deal that fell through in the property next door. And the property next door had an offer that was a big gas station. Neighbors were kind of concerned about that, and that kind of fell through. And then one by one, through Pat Rary, through Brett Smith, through some others, the opportunity just kept knocking on the door for next door. And none of us wanted next door, but it just kept popping up. And none of us felt like there was a pushback from the Lord to say no. And so I'm bringing to you, on behalf of the pastors and the deacons, the opportunity we have to look at the purchase of next door. Now, I want you to know this. If I were to rank 1 to 100 on what I was concerned about this morning when I woke up, 99 points of that would have been my message that I'm about to deliver. That is how much, I'm not negating what is happening, that's how much I'm at peace with. I truly believe this church follows the Holy Spirit. We are not trying to, this church, when we came here, we didn't want any drama. We didn't want any, we didn't want any big programs. When we moved in, we never even had a grand opening. We've still yet to buy a sign for our building. And so this is not one of those things of let's keep growing and keep being a big, none of us want to be that big church. No, I can tell you, I've been rescued from having just fallen on my face in ministry, that I don't ever want to get to that point again. Now, what would we do if we did get that place? Are you ready for this? We don't know yet. Don't know. Are there options of building a little larger sanctuary, because we've determined that through building this, that, well, sure enough, there is a little bit growth because we're still building a high school and middle school. We just established a beachhead on it, and so it's in its infancy stage. And so as those families start coming here, we need a little bit more room. Would we develop another building that was identical to this? and you come over here and you go west of the creek or east of the creek for church. I mean, because we always wanted another campus, so who just would have thought we'd have it next door? I tell you, whatever we do, it's going to have a porch, because that's the best thing we ever built. We'll have room for a school or something, people to use. We don't know. But let me bring up some pictures up here and show you what I'm talking about. You can see that's us to the right, the green top building and our parking. And we can still squeeze a little bit more parking down at the bottom. Then you obviously see the field to the left. We'll talk about that in a second. But the next picture is going to show you another concern that we have, and that is the bridge. The bridge that you drive over on our creek is actually a bridge that supposedly, now y'all know when I say this, I'm talking about the state and the county, right? That supposedly is having what they call a marriage date, which would be this fall. That bridge is being demolished, and a new bridge is being built to the tune of $2 million. And talk about an odd timing, right? Isn't that interesting? That a new bridge is being built with a bike lane, with a sidewalk, pedestrian walkway. And so we're excited about a bridge. Yeah, sure. But you know what also happens is that bridge could come, there could be a time when during the construction you could not access our church except to go on Livingston Avenue and then come back up this way. And so by having this property, which by the way, you know, we park, that's our overflow parking, right? And then you get the next slide is kind of a loop. You can see it. It's kind of actually good imagery here. They just tilled the property, so it's in white right there. And that makes it kind of convenient to see. But do you know they lease that to us for free, that parking, so we don't pay for that parking. But yesterday, Bob Zentmeyer's homegoing service, we had 130 cars parked in that field. We would be lying to you if we didn't say we're a little concerned that if we did lose our overflow parking, we could be strangled and landlocked. Now, the questions you would have to us would be, can we afford it? And keeping in that vein, Brett Smith, come on down and you know, Brett is our, you always want to hire some, you know, even though he's not hired by the church, you always want somebody that's going to be the chief warrior, you know. Are we worried about that? No, that's Brett's job. No, but keeping that in mind, I think it's important to know that Brett handles our finances here at the church, and he can, pastors, we're removed from what you give. We're removed from a lot of these financial things. We just kind of tell them what we want to do in ministry. So I figured maybe, Brett, you could come up here and just kind of maybe ask some questions that you've asked yourself and throw some answers for us. How's that? Oh, you need a microphone. Yeah, here we go. Gotcha.
If they want me to be heard.
That's right.
I'm real prepared.
Thank you.
Good morning. Y'all hear me? Okay, great. We've got a couple slides, and again, they only gave me like 3 minutes, so we won't do justice to it, but I'm kind of a bottom line person. I mean, you can tell me all the different things, but at the end of the day, what's the bottom line? And it's really 3 questions. Is this God's will? Can we afford it? And what do we do about parking if we don't? I mean, everything else is really kind of immaterial. The first question, is it God's will? I mean, that's what we all do. We pray, you know, God will let us know if it's not his will. So we've been doing that. And so kind of step 2 is, can we afford it? We're going to show some slides to show you where we are currently, and then I'm going to kind of unpack that a little bit. So there we go. So again, I'm comparing year to date, 21 to 22, so just the first 6 months of both those periods. You can see general giving is up about 32%. Our building payoff fund, mortgage payoff fund is up about 50%. And again, that is the dollars that you all earmark building. Within the church budget, we also contribute towards that. Other things, missions and things of that nature, up 80. So total giving is up about 40%. And that really doesn't have any big one-time gifts that are skewing those figures. So that just seems to be a growth because we have more people and more people are giving. just to get everyone back on the same page, last year our budget was $737,000 for the year. This year it's a little over $1 million. If you divide it by 12, it's $86,000 a year budget. Our building debt, first year we walked in, a year and a half ago, it was $2.5 million. We paid $600,000 down the first year on it, which is only a God thing. And we're kind of on a path of a 5-year payoff, so 4 more, but we'll see. We have no other short-term debt or other debt. So, next slide. So, from a position of cash, again, this compared the end of last year to now, so a 6-month period. Our operating account is up about 25%, so 298 versus 401. Reserve fund is up significantly. We have this principal pay down fund, debt reduction, missions, and a church plant fund, which we started a year ago thinking we're not going to ever need anything else. We'll plant another church someday. So things have changed. So that's kind of where we are. So the real question is, can we afford it? I mean, let's just cut to the bottom line. And one of the things I always like to tell people, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the financial business during the day. And figures don't lie, but liars figure. So I can make these figures kind of say whatever they want. I can make it look like we're doing so good we could pay cash, or, you know, we're barely making it. You know, y'all reach in your wallet right now and throw some cash up here. The goal is to be realistic. From a cash flow standpoint, first 6 months we had 724. You divide it by 6, it's about 124,000 a month has come in. Our budget's 86,000. So we have about 40,000 a month. We've had this past 6 months about 40,000 a month of free cash flow. Now it's not piled up. Some of it's in Jake's pocket, but the rest of it is, you know, it's going to pay down the mortgage. That's, you know, one of the things we're doing is plowing into that mortgage fund. We do a lot of benevolence, and so it is being, you know, wisely spent. But it's cash flow that we didn't need for our budget. I'm a little conservative by nature. You know, it's like trust God, but then He needs my help kind of a thing. So I kind of say, well, if we take the budget or the current cash flow and we lop off 20%, so just to give a little conservatism, it leaves us about $14,000 a month of really free cash flow. If we got this land, it's within that number. I think we're going to get you a piece out, so I don't want to get sidetracked on all the ins and outs, but that could cost $8,000 to $13,000 a month, depending on interest only or amortizing it. So, can we reasonably afford it? I think the answer is yes. You know, if the world ends and everybody loses their jobs and quits giving, and well, then we can't. And we get into do we sell the part out by the street and to commercial? Do we keep part of it? Do we keep the parking, sell the rest? We've got a lot of options, but at the end of the day, given what we're doing, we can absolutely afford it, and you know, it looks pretty promising on that front. So,
if as members we're given 2 weeks to vote. This is not like a rush decision now. And then the deacons and elders will be back there, and on the ballot it'll simply say, right now the offer that they presented is $2.2 million they will finance at 5%, and then we've contacted the family that holds a note on our property to give them first right of refusal, and just obviously they pray for us, and they are so generous to us. So the opportunity could be that we have a much, you know, we could get it for lesser money, we could get it for a lesser interest rate, that kind of thing. We don't know, but at worst case, The offer is 2.2 with 5% interest. And so then the ballots will be there for members to which to vote, and those who are being called up to new members on the 24th of July, you'll be included in that. So it'll be the 25th as a deadline. And and there is, by the way, the state, when they build the bridge, is going to take some of our property. And so we're going to be paid some money. That means the state is not releasing this, but if they're buying our property, some of our property, which is just in the front, we don't know how much. Maybe the sidewalk, maybe we have to move some things, but they could be buying over here as well, and then we could recoup some of that money. And the seller has agreed to release the fact that he knows that we would be getting some money for it.
Can I say something else too?
You may.
So where we stand, we have a unsigned contract that we, short of an immediate no from up above, we're going to counter and send that back. And we have a 30-day or so right of refusal. They know that it has to be approved by congregation. So we can technically tie it up, decide if we want it, yes or no. As Jake said, it's $2.2 million, which is like, we paid $250 for this land. So 2.2 is kind of a big number for a parking lot. But the end corner out by Newberger and 41 is probably worth an easy $1 million, and then we could chunk off a couple other lots and sell, and so we could parcel it out and still hang on to the parking for pretty affordable. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and again, I would say that anything we do over there, we just want you to know, we're not buying a $2 million parking lot, but we're also not building a 5,000 seat sanctuary. We don't know. We just feel like the Lord has brought us to the point of, do we, one day could we sell off the front area, or does the Lord said, no, I want the whole thing being used for my ministry? We just are going to be obedient about it. You will not see a building campaign, a fundraising campaign. We never did it for here. We'll never do it for there. We're just going to pray and ask the Lord to give, and that's what he's done so far. So unless you're going to steal any more time from my message, I'm going to preach. So anyway, thank you. And then, thank you, Brett. And then, sure, thanks. He's going to be back in the back conference room with some other guys, the deacons, and they may not can answer all your questions, which means you have a really good question. So if you have questions, just go back to these doors after the service, and they'll be back there to answer any questions you have. And again, if we get a list of good questions that we think we haven't covered, we'll email those out to you with some answers. So anyway, and if you're visiting, you're going, of all Sundays, right? Thanks for being a part of that and taking the time.